Well, hello there, gang. My name's Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M. And this morning I'm standing here in Flash Industrial, and I'm just getting ready to take the first steps to completely redoing this 2004 Bobcat Toolcat 5600. Except for before I get started on it, there's a few things I got to do. I had to bring it out here earlier in the day before it started snowing and remove that big sand pile that was right there and move it right there. That's where I want it for the winter. Then I covered it up with a tarp. Oh, hey, there's shop foreman Kevin. Yeah, I know, buddy. And there's little Louie. Hey, Louie. And now that I've got the forks back on it and got the bucket off of it again, I need to come out here and move all these pallets of pellets around. I need its off-road capabilities, otherwise I would just use this forklift. This old 77, I think, Datsun has done me a very good job in the whole time I've owned it. And that's what I unloaded them off the trailer with. But I need to move them around the property with the Toolcat because the Toolcat's got the off-road capabilities and that Datsun gets stuck instantly. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pallets moved around. And once I get that done, that Toolcat is going to be completely freed up and ready for us to get started on it. All right, now that that's done, I've got the machine freed up. I can go ahead and get started on it. Good morning. I do have my work cut out for me. Very odd. I was pretty impressed. I'm gonna do what I always do on these trucks. And that just happens to be my thing, by the way. This paint job's probably 5-6 years old. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is leaving. It wasn't quite as fun as I was expecting. And that starts right about now. And so we're gonna have the machine, then the forks, then the bucket. Oh, hey, Kevin. What are you doing, buddy? Yeah, I got the big paws going. And now I'm ready to finally get going here. What I've done is I've put the bucket here with a couple of metal cans under it. 3 metal cans under the forks here. And then I just put a little 2x4 under there just to, if that is gonna sink down over the days, I don't wanna have to mess with it. So I just put that under there, and this is where these are gonna sit until this project is completed. Now, speaking of my dirty floor, I've got a little secret for you. And this is just between you and I don't want this getting out. I've even turned the stereo off so I can lower my voice so nobody finds out. This floor in this shop that I've painted hundreds of trucks on. I've been painting trucks in this particular shop since 2010. So 15 years of painting trucks in this shop. And of course, I've been in business a lot longer than that. I've been in business a quarter century, and I was painting trucks for a few years before that. But for the last 15 years, I've painted hundreds of trucks and pieces of equipment in this shop. And just between you and I, this floor is dirt. It's a dirt floor. It's not cement. I built this shop. We built this shop. My wife, my oldest daughter, and I all built this shop. And everything from the 10-foot mark up, and these are 16-foot walls, 16-foot doors. That was all me, 100% me. All the insulation, all the tin, all the everything, because of heights issues that others have. But everything else they helped build, and this was clear back, like I said, in about 2010 is when we got it done. And I couldn't afford, I had to build it with my own 2 hands. I did a bunch of trading to get the shop. If you watch any of my previous videos, you kind of know a little bit about the story of how I got this shop. And I did it with a bunch of trading. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a pot to piss in. And so when it came time to build it, we built it. And we also built both of the shop additions, one on either side. But the main shop area, which is 63 by 30, it looks bigger in video, but it's only 63 by 30 by 16-foot walls. That we built that, and I didn't have any money at the time, and I came from nothing. I left home originally when I was 12 with just the shirt on my back, and I got in a bunch of trouble with the law, a bunch, felony level trouble even, and then I had to. I was forced by the courts to go back. By the time I was 14. And then I was there off and on until I eventually graduated. And I did graduate in 1992 at the age of 17. That is, I graduated with my class in 1992 after quitting school for a half a year, my junior year, and missing the last third of a year, my sophomore year, from being forced into a drug and alcohol treatment center by a court system that was tired of putting up with me. But that's a whole nother set of stories. And that's when I left and stayed gone. But I've never had much. When I left home, I had the shirt on my back when I was 12. And then when I left home again, when I graduated, I had basically the same shirt and a 1955 Ford step-side pickup that my old man sold me for $400. And that's where I started. That's where this journey began. And so when I got this shop, I was used to not having money. This business doesn't pay unless you have a heck of a reputation and the right clientele. This sort of business doesn't pay. I know other people that have tried this business and gotten out of it because it's just too hard to work and too demanding for too little money. And so we went years and years and years just on scraps, working 16-hour days and making barely enough to pay bills. And so when we put this shop together, I didn't have enough for a cement floor. And since then, maybe I could have afforded it on a few different occasions, but I've been so used to just working without it. And this floor, I laid down with shale, and then over time, and I put tarps on it. I nailed down tarps. If you look, here's a little rip, here's a little rip, and here's the seam where I nailed them down. Because I can't buy a tarp that's as big as this shop, and so I just replace the tarps as we need. And so about once a year or so, I'll come through and I'll tear up one side or the other, sometimes both, and then I'll put down all new tarps and nail them all down with good sized nails with washers around them. And that's just how we've done it. And the reason that I bring that up at all is because if you're the type of person that thinks you have to have all your moons lined up and all your ducks in a row to be able to do something, whether it's paint vehicles or, start a carpentry business or anything like it, whatever business you're thinking about. You got an old kiln and you think that you're going to start doing ceramics and stuff. Whatever it is you think you can do, keep in mind, you don't have to have the perfect scenario to do it. I still don't to this day. I'm a guy that has shot hundreds of trucks in this shop, and I've got a stellar reputation, and it was all on a dirt floor. And now I realize that, my personal story is one of possibly the least interesting things that happens around here. And if you don't want to hear it, not interested, you just grab your remote and you fast forward past all this until we get to work again. But if you are interested in more of my story, I've told many, many, many stories on my Flash Industrial Facebook page. And by the time I'm done typing them out, they're a read. They're sometimes a 10, 20-minute read. And I've told many stories on there. And when the memories come around again, I just repost them again. And I've got, I don't know how many, 50, 60 stories on there. And I've got another 200 that I could tell. And they're not all pleasant. I've got a rough history. I came up rough and I've always kind of lived that way. So they're not all super pleasant stories, but they're me, and they're how I've done it. They're how I've traversed this planet. And so if you're interested in something like that, check out my Facebook page, follow me if you want or whatever. But especially in the winter, I tend to tell these stories. And so especially in the winter, the memories come up and then I just repost them. So there's quite a bit that's happened in my life. I'm 50 years old and I've lived about 6 lifetimes. And like I said, the last 15 years of it has been on a dirt floor. But enough about my silly ass. Let's get started on this Toolcat. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jack this up just a little bit and pull all these wheels and tires off. Then I'm going to find a place to put those, and then I'm going to get inside of this interior and just start cleaning it. It's a pit. It's a filthy mess, and it has been since this machine got here. I just haven't done anything about it because all I was going to do was work the machine for a while. And since I've done that now I need to get in here and start cleaning it because like this floor, that's what, ½ inch deep? And that's what I mean. I got to pull these floor mats out. I've got to vacuum this out, get this all wiped down, figured out, get the seats pulled out of it, get everything in here wiped down before I do anything else because I need to know what all needs to be done. You can tell by looking at it that this probably needs some paint. And And I'm not going to paint the entire interior because, I mean, look, the insides of these doors, they look great. They look brand new. A lot of the inside of the cab, metal-wise, still looks brand new. But down here, we've got some rust issues and some inconsistencies. And so what I'm going to do is just figure out exactly what needs to be painted in this cab and what does not, because that's one of the first things I'll do is clean this up and get whatever needs to be painted in here, so I can close these doors and then keep them closed until this project's finished. All right, now at this point, I've just got my prep to. I haven't prepped anything yet. I've just cleaned it out. I cleaned the interior, did all my masking. As you can see, everything is all plasticed off. I plastic off the backside of this door because I'm not going to paint the backside of this door and I don't want to get overspray on it. Same with the driver's side here. Got the seats pulled out. There's one laying right there, one laying right there. I still need to get this seat brace off of the bottom of it. And the this side now I'm ready to start prep. So I'm gonna go ahead and get wire wheel and get all this rust cleaned up. And then I'm gonna get all my prep done. And I'm gonna go ahead and scratch the insides of these door jambs. And I'm going to shoot the door jambs in the floor in this lower area in primer. And then I'm gonna get them in paint. At the same time, then I'm going to paint these wheels. So I still have to mask off these wheels. All right, well, I've got them both in primer, both sides in primer now. And I've got the wheels in primer. Both sides of those two wheels in primer and just the outside of those two. And that primer's had plenty of time to sit and cure out. So now I'm going to go ahead and shoot the wheels first. And then I'm going to shoot the inside of this cab right after that. Well, now it's bright and early the next morning, and as you saw yesterday, I got the interior shot here, and you can see it turned out nice and shiny. And I've gone ahead and unmasked those wheels and got them out of here. I went ahead and unmasked the back sides of these doors. They don't need to be masked up anymore. And I also pulled what was left of these fenders off of here. And then another thing that I did yesterday that I'm not sure if I caught it on film or not is I went ahead and painted this cylinder, which is also needed to be gray. And now today, I'm going to mask up this cylinder and mask up these coils, and then I'm going to get rid of all these stickers, and I'm going to get this boom ready to be sprayed white. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and get this box ready to get sprayed white today as well. All right, there's one of the two seats in. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on the driver's side. Now at this point, I can pretty much call the interior finished. I wiped it all down, cleaned it all up, replaced both of the seats, cleaned up the floor mats, prepped all of this lower section, masked off all the pertinent stickers, and primed and painted the lower section, painted the jambs. Now I can go ahead at this point and close these doors until this project is over. There, I went ahead and got one of my floor mats. This is just one of those mats that I made that we can kneel on all the time, and I've just set it up there on this table so he's got a place to be. Once you give him a place to be, he's not so involved in the project. All right, well, at this point, I've gone far enough in the day that I don't have the time to get as far as I need to on the box to be able to get the box and the boom both shot in white today. So instead, what I'm going to spend the rest of my day doing is just cleaning some stuff up. For instance, I got all the decals off of there. That was no small task. And including all the decals here on the sides as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle this access door issue. And one thing that I've learned about Ingersoll Rand as a company since I've been dealing with them on getting some of these parts and some answers, because they're one of those silly companies that you can't just order parts because you need a breakdown of the machine to get the part number. And the only way you can get a breakdown is to order an expensive manual, or take it to the shop. You can always take it to their shop. That's the alternative. They go, oh, you can always take it to a dealer, pay us $1 million, so we can work on it, when all I need is a breakdown. So when it comes to Ingersoll Rand, I'm not too impressed. But their employees, out of their North Dakota office anyway, are easy to deal with. They'll just email me a breakdown so I can get the right parts. They're easy to deal with. They'll answer all your questions. So I've enjoyed dealing with Catherine in particular. So that part's been nice. Their employees are good, but the way they do business is pretty shady. And their website itself is a big floppy pair of clown shoes. it's almost broken completely. It's very difficult to navigate. You type in a part number and it sends you back to a whole nother screen that makes you start the whole world over again. And I mean, it's ridiculous. Their website is just stupid. So it's been difficult getting all the stuff here that I need. Now, when it comes to shipping, everything shows up on time. I'll say that about them. They can get you your stuff when they say that's going to be here, it'll be there. So I do like that. But I'll give you an example here. This access hatch was destroyed. And here it is right here. You can see it is not in good shape. It's got holes punctured in it and stuff like that. And so right here where the lock is, look at that. That's all bent out and the lock was in terrible shape. I actually put the lock in some transmission fluid, which is a really excellent penetrating oil if you give it a few days. And I loosened it up, so it's ready to go. I didn't need to order another one, but I wanted to order a whole new hatch, a hatch door. And what was stupid about that was the picture that they showed online. And by the way, their website, again, really dumb. Almost every other part you want to order doesn't have a picture that goes with it. So you just get this description that's not an accurate or good description, and no picture to go with it. So I'll bet those people on their phone line there in North Dakota, I'll bet they're busy getting calls all the time because their website sucks so bad. But when I did find a picture of this access hatch, I could tell by the picture that the hinges were on the wrong side. And so I called them up there in North Dakota and I said, hey, what's the part number for the passenger side hatch? And they go, no, it's the same hatch for both sides. And I politely said it can't be because the hinge would be on the other side. And the way that it's set up on the machine means that you have to have a right and a left. And they said, no, there's only one hatch available. All the other parts have been discontinued, and that's another thing. There's a lot of parts for this that have been discontinued. Can you imagine giving 80 grand or plus for a machine and just a few years later you can't get parts for it? I'm not saying you can't get any parts for this. I'm just saying some parts have been discontinued, and you'd think 0 parts have been discontinued. But some of them that I've tried to find have been. So that's been a lot of fun. And so they told me, they assured me, no, that hatch, it'll work for both sides. And I came out and I looked at the machine again and I thought, no, it won't. But there's only one available. So buy it or don't buy it. That was my choice. So I bought it and they assured me it would fit. And then when it gets here, at a glance, I knew what I knew all along, that it doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. See how the hinges are faced up like that? They're supposed to be facing down. Not to mention when you put it in the cubby where it goes, look, these two line up with each other perfectly. So there's no way it fits. And there's no flipping it upside down. It doesn't work that way. It only goes on this way. And as you can see, those line up with each other perfectly. So there's no fitting in the hull. And since this is made of plastic, for a $70-some part, you'd think it would be made of something real, but it's just made of plastic. There's really nothing I can do about it. You'd think you could pull the hinge pins out and stick them up underneath, right? Pull them out of the top and put them up under. But again, how? It doesn't fit. So, and they assured me that this is a modification-free setup, but it's going to require a lot of modification, as it turns out, which I knew. I knew that when I ordered it, but here we are. Luckily, I'm a handy guy. So what I got to do here, one of the chores I have to do is I have to cut these two hinges out, cut this weld, get these two pieces of the lower piece of the hinges out, mark over here where they got to go, and then strip this piece of like weather stripping out. And see where they just bent aside the little tines of the radiator to be able to get the little catch for the lock to go in. That's not a big deal. It's just a few little bent tines. It's weird to see that on a machine from the factory, but I'm going to have to do that same thing. I'm going to have to bend them right over here to make a little bit of room for that when that lock goes in there, for that lock to be able to go behind there and actually catch. And then I'm going to have to put weather stripping on this side too. Take it off of here and put it over here. Cut these off of here and mount them over here. And so that's one of the next things I've got to do. I've got to cut those hinges out, weld them on the other side in the correct spot, and get this door to work here today. Now at this point, I've got the hinges moved. I got them marked out by putting them on the hatch and putting the hatch in place and marking right where they go. And then I got them tacked in place. Then I went ahead and put the hatch back on and made sure it was going to work and be exactly where I wanted it to be, not too far to the bottom, not too close to the top or either side, basically right in the middle where it needed to be. And once I verified that, I went ahead and took the hatch back off and then more thoroughly welded these. Now both the hinges are welded in place and the hatch fits perfectly. Now all I need to do is integrate the lock into the other side and we're good to go. All right, I've got the hatch installed. Fits nicely down in the new hinge location. Opens and closes nice. Easily locks. I just had to make a little bit of space right there. And there you go. Now this is, and you can see it's nice and even at the top, at the bottom, both sides. Sits right in the middle where it should. Well, now I'm to the point that I've got all the body work done, got the sanding done, the scratching done, the glazing done, got everything done that I need to have done. I'm gonna go ahead and get some primer on this box, get some primer on the boom. And normally when you see me do body work, you always see me put wet sanding primer over it. But there are alternatives, I just don't often employ them. If you are careful about how you do your glazing, and you have to do it 2 or 3 times, because anytime you sand into it very deep, you'll get pinholes. So then the final coat has to be, you have to have it perfect before the final coat. Then the final coat is meant to just fill those final pinholes and sand scratches, sand it down with 220 or even finish it out with 320, and then you're good to go and you don't technically need to wet sand prime it. But I still go ahead and wet sand prime oftentimes because that way I can skip that final step of glazing it yet again. But in this particular case, I did all the steps, I did all the glazing, as you can see, glazed it a few times. Some body work there. A little more body work than I was expecting, but that's kind of always the case. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and get this box and this boom primed and then get them in paint right after that. And now it's been a few hours. Everything is primed. Everything's good and cured out. I'm going to go ahead and mix up some white paint, get this guy shot in white. And so now I've got everything masked up the way I want it. And as usual, since this is fresh paint, I went ahead and put paper over it and then just put plastic around the paper. Same with back here. I didn't use plastic, I didn't need to. Paper just did the trick. So now that all this masking's done, I can go ahead and get started on some of this other stuff. Well, I would have brought you guys along for the priming process, but I didn't hit record. I finally have a competent camera that I've shot probably the last 5 or 6 videos with, and it's not a GoPro. More on that before the end of the video, but I just simply didn't push record. I set it up where I was going to have it and didn't hit record. So, but anyway, I'm hitting record now, and I've got this all primed. It was all prepped. Got it all primed everywhere, and I'm going to paint all this, and then I'm going to get out my black paint, and I'm going to paint these 2 items. Well, it's bright and early the next morning, and we got a little snow on the ground. It's still snowing outside, but inside the shop here, it's nice and warm, has been all night, and this paint had a chance to cure out. So what we've got is a black bucket, black set of forks, and a gray machine. Got all the gray shot yesterday. Chassis, all the suspension, and then back here, we got the undercoater shot. And so now I'm going to begin the process of unmasking this Toolcat and getting it all put back together here today.
It's a 16 buff in the dark.
And now that the unmasking is gone perfectly well, I'm going to go ahead and start putting some parts back on this guy. And here, I'm replacing one of those two hoses that go to the external hydraulics there, because one of them was ever so slightly cracked and it was seeping and causing a pretty consistent drip from there, which is kind of a turnoff for a piece of equipment that you're looking to sell. So I got another hose for it. I'm going to be replacing this hose, which is much shorter, with this hose, which is much longer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap this one and this one out. That way they still go to the same destinations and they'll hang just about the same as each other. But I couldn't find the exact hose I needed because Ingersoll Rand decided that of all hoses, they needed to not make anymore, which is a really stupid decision when you think about it. Of all the hoses on this, you'd think the one that sits and flexes all the time with the boom and is fully exposed to the elements, you'd think those are the ones you'd make forever. Instead, I can get any other hose on this machine but that one. It's really dumb. So I had to get a similar one, and that took a lot of research. That's about, I don't know, 6 inches longer is all, but other than that, it's the exact same, so at least I come up with something. And here's how those hydraulic lines turned out. They don't hang too bad. It doesn't look too much different than it did when the machine showed up. And now it won't be dripping from here like it was before. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not using GoPro cameras anymore. I couldn't wait to get away from them. They've got an impressive wide angle lens, and that's where my compliments end. Everything else about them. And it's not like I've gotten 1 or even 2 GoPros. Since I started filming for YouTube, I've gone through almost 10 of them on 4 different iterations, at least 4 different models of GoPro, and they all have very similar problems. Very, very overrated and very low quality all in all. Super hard to work with, very unpredictable. I could do a half-hour video just on the inconsistencies of the GoPro cameras, because I can't believe how overrated those things are. But anyway, what I ended up going with was, and this is not an advertisement, this is the DJI Action 4. This is a brand new one. This one's never been used. The one that you're looking at me through right now is the one I've been using for the last 4, 5, 6 videos, maybe more. And I'm pretty darn happy with it. I actually like the audio better than I do on the GoPro. And the lens is pretty much just as good. It doesn't get quite as wide angle, but I can live with that. And everything else, all the inconsistencies and things I hate about the GoPros aren't present on this DJI. And again, I'm not advertising for them. I've never been in communication with them. I found a camera that works way better than a GoPro and is very reasonably priced, and I figured I'd just let you in on it. The reason I bought a spare is in case this camera ever goes down, I've instantly got another one, or I can do 2 different angles at once. So the only downside of the DJI is getting it actually up and running is confusing. They make you download their app, and they try and get you to give you your credit card number right off the bat, but you can avoid that. And then you have to download their app before you can even activate the camera. Can't even shoot footage with it until all that's done. And it's confusing and silly. But outside of that, once I got that ordeal done with, then it's been a really good camera ever since, and I'm really happy with it. So I just figured I'd let you know what that was about. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get the fenders and fender flares mounted, and then after that, I'll probably do the wheels. Oh, I know, Kev. Kevin's come in this morning to make sure we're doing a good job. Now here's my fenders and fender flares that I'm getting ready to mount here and on the other side. All right, 1 down and 1 to go. All right, gang. All the mechanical work is done. It's all put back together. Now I need to sort out all the decals, measure out where they go, and put them where they go. Well, gang, looks like we're here at the finish line. Let's go ahead and walk around this guy and have us a look. All right, what we have here is a 2004 Bobcat Toolcat 5600. When it showed up, it had busted up fenders, absolutely torn to shreds or cracked to shreds seats, The interior was a mess, absolutely filthy. And all of this metal down here needed painted. It was rusty. The floorboards were rusty. As you can see, brand new seats. This was all painted up, prepped correctly and painted up. The cab barely had any paint left on the sides and none left on the top. The top was solid rust, not heavy rust, just surface rust. The box had a bunch of cancerous rust along the bottom there. There wasn't too deep of cancer, but I still, I took care of it all nonetheless. The wheels were pretty dingy and rusty. I painted the outsides of the back wheels, both sides of the front wheels. As you can see, even took the time to paint to single out and paint the springs, the same color orange as the wheels. Sandblasted some of the components, like the backside of this Bobcat, stupid name, system, and the entire bucket. I went ahead and prepped and painted the forks, and then once it was painted, I moved the forks over and painted the spots where the forks were sitting, so now it's all solid painted. The bucket, it's not in the best shape of any bucket I've ever seen, but it's the one that came with it, and it will dig. The same could be said for the forks. They're not in the best shape of any forks I've ever seen, but they definitely do their job. And they're 4 foot, which is handy. And they've got this hole in the end, which is handy, so you can put a ball and move things around. I replaced the leaky hose. One of these hoses had a leak, and I went ahead and replaced it. Brand new fenders, brand new fender flares. Got all of the correct stickers for it, decals for it, and installed them. Again, the interior is now in excellent shape. Painted part of the chassis here at the back. Putting all new bed liner in the box. The correct decals back here. Took this plate off to do this machine and then reinstalled it when we were done. Also, all of its identification is there and in perfect shape. I also replaced this panel with one that works absolutely perfectly. And it was not a modification-free part like they said it would be, and I knew it wouldn't be, but I moved the hinges from there to there and loosened up the lock, and now it all works great. All right, that about does it. And now that I've completed this Bobcat Toolcat 5600 restoration, I'm going to go ahead and get it on the marketplace because I don't really have a use for it, and it's too nice for anything I would do. Hey, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. That's going to help me grow this channel. And if you want to see more of what goes on around here, you should check us out at Facebook at Flash Industrial Painting. And if you want to see more videos like this, or gardening, or art, or carpentry, or semi-auto body, or domestic auto body, or any of the many things we do around here, you might as well just take the time to hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.